Hi, my name is Nicole Dumang, and I started the group Teachers in Transition when I decided to leave teaching earlier this year. This group has been a space to build community, share resources, and learn together with educators and former educators who have decided to pursue a professional path outside of the classroom. I've put on panel events where we've heard from former teachers now well established in their new careers. And this is the third episode in the interview series hearing from recently transitioned teachers. This is a chance to hear from others who have recently made it through that process, to hear about the tips they've learned along the way, where they landed, and how it feels to have made it to the other side. Today's conversation was with Melissa Hartnett, who has recently started a role as an education program specialist with an education nonprofit. I really enjoyed talking with her today and think she has a lot of awesome tips to share. One of the standouts in our conversation was how it took a push for her to really start submitting applications. She felt like she wasn't quite ready yet. She didn't know exactly where she wanted to apply. But after getting support from her network and continuing to have informational interviews to learn from others, she felt taking the plunge and starting to submit applications really helped with her momentum going forward. So I really hope you enjoy the conversation with her as much as I did, and I'll see you next time. All right, welcome to the third episode of Transition Teacher Talks with Teachers in Transition. And today we're joined by Melissa Hartnett. Hi, Melissa, how are you?
I'm great, Nicole. I am so glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you to get to reconnect. I know we met previously on LinkedIn, but we haven't had a chance to talk in a while. So I'm really happy to catch up.
Yeah, me too.
All right. So to start off, I know you are now in a new role. I think you have you been in it for a couple months already?
Yeah, I started September 19th. So
Okay.
I'm coming up on my 90 days, which will be nice because there's some things that will change then.
Oh, great. So
Yeah.
before we get into all the details of what the role is, what it's been like, how you got there, I'd first just love to hear how does it feel? Looking back on that transition process, applying to all the jobs, how does it feel to be where you are now?
Well, I mean, I not gonna, it feels like a relief to have found a job. That was there were points along the way where I felt like, oh my goodness, what am I doing? What am I thinking? And it feels really great. It's just fun to be doing something different. But like I'm not 100% different as you'll hear when I talk about my job. Um, but it's exciting and it's fun and I just know that if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Yeah, that's really great to hear. And I'm glad to hear you say that last part. And that was really my intention with these interviews is to kind of keep providing that motivation to those of us who are still on the job search. There's light at the
Yes,
end of the tunnel.
there
Um,
is.
yeah. So I'm excited to hear a little bit more about what the tunnel looked like for you and also where you are now. So what is the role that you have landed? And if you could add into, is it different from what you were targeting before you got this job?
So yeah, my job now, my title is education program specialist. I work for a nonprofit called Frameworks of Tampa Bay, and we teach and well, we train teachers in emotional intelligence and how to empower their students with it. It's a pretty niche job. Um, and it's really fun because I did my Clifton strengths when I was trying to figure out what I needed, what I was going to be doing. And
Mhm.
empathy was my number one strength, and I get to teach people about that in my job every day, which is pretty cool. um, it is not what I even remotely saw myself doing. In fact, I wasn't sure what I saw myself doing. I just knew that my husband was retiring from the military. We've moved around a lot. And even though I taught for 15 years, I never built up any seniority. And so when I just was like, okay, he's starting something new. I want to start something new too. And I really had to explore. And when I first started looking at it, I thought I was going to do recruiting for some reason. I have no idea why.
I also thought
Maybe
that
because a
for a
lot of
while.
people were, I don't know why I thought that. And I explored that. That was one of the main ones that I really looked at. And then I kind of started looking a little bit more at corporate training and figured it was a little bit closer to teaching.
Mhm.
and aligned with with the skills that I had. And so I started looking for jobs doing that kind of stuff, which was interesting because there are a lot of job titles for training.
Mhm.
So that was interesting, just sifting through all of them. And education program specialist, I, I found it on LinkedIn. Um, you know, it was not really something I was necessarily looking for that title. It was just I kind of found it by doing searches on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense with what you're saying about empathy being your number one uh strength, because that was something that stood out when I first met you too. And that's great that you can be so aligned with that work that you're doing now.
Well,
Um,
thank you.
yeah, so that's great to hear where you landed and how the path was a little unclear, but you found something that you're enjoying. Um,
Yeah.
so what would be, kind of looking back on the process when you were trying to figure out what you were doing and how to land that role, what would be your advice for maintaining a positive mindset throughout the job search?
For me, it was 100% find a good support system. When I started this whole process, I was encouraged by my friend Moira, and she had been through a similar process and really encouraged me. I was like, you can totally do this. You can do this. And I was like, I don't know anything about LinkedIn. I don't know anything about anything. and, and she was like, no, you can do this. This is what you need to do. And she kind of helped me figure out how to do my LinkedIn profile, make sure that I had a nice picture on there, make sure that I had a banner. And I even took like a mastering LinkedIn a couple of times, LinkedIn class. And so, and she encouraged me to do all of that. And, she showed me her resume and just really, really encouraged me. And so as I started getting onto LinkedIn, I was in the process of a move.
Mm,
My since my husband was retiring from the military. So I didn't have like a support system that was right there with me. And so really LinkedIn became my support system. I developed some really good relationships. I mean, I have some true friendships from LinkedIn now. Funny, we moved to Tampa, and one of them I've met her in person now, which is just amazing. Like we're Cassie, we're good friends now.
that's
So
great.
anyway, that was a huge thing to me. Was just having that encouragement from the relationships that I developed and having that support, especially well, and your group too. Like I didn't get to come to a lot of your meetings, but I always looked at your content. I always saw you encouraging and just the comments back and forth. It was very encouraging to me.
That's so great to hear. Yeah, shout out to Moira also. Sounds like you
Yes.
had someone really in your corner.
Yes.
So yeah, that's something I've definitely experienced and heard from a lot of other people, having people going through a similar process to kind of support you along the way and understand really what it's feeling like, but also to have people with more expertise and knowledge to kind of guide you towards where you're heading. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah. So I guess getting into some more of the details of what your job search looked like. I know you said you found your job on LinkedIn. Um,
Mhm.
what would you say were some of those moves you were doing in the job application process where you started to feel like you were making more progress? Like, was there any moment where all of a sudden you were getting more responses, or anything that you did that felt like that really stood out and ended up making a difference?
I mean, my application process, like when I first started applying and I got this job, was really a little over a month. I think what really helped me the most was the prep work that I did before it, um, because it was so important to do those informational interviews for me and
Mhm.
really figure out like what I wanted to do. Like I said, I thought that I was going to be doing recruiting. And once I started really talking to recruiters, I was like, oh my gosh, no, like my hat's off to the recruiters. Y'all are amazing because I don't know how you do it. I don't think I'm that competitive. And so, but I had to realize that. And so once I started realizing those things, I was able to really target my resume to the types of things I wanted. And I did start working with a mentor from American Corporate Partners, and she actually helped me figure out like these are the types of jobs that I see you doing, after she knew my background. And she was like, you're ready, apply. And I think that was one of the biggest hurdles that I needed to overcome. I think after all the preparation, because I started in April
Hmm.
and went through, and then we got to like the end of July, and or mid-July, and she was like, you need to start applying. And that was literally one of the most important things I did. Just get my feet wet.
Hmm.
And I think another thing is just maintaining patience, because I put in these applications and then didn't hear anything, and I thought, well, okay, no one wants me, you know like I'm old, I'm 51. And what do I have to offer? I'm just gonna have to go find another teaching job. And then I got one phone call for an interview, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is possible. I mean, I think just so much of it is just, you know, being able to hone in and target, what you think you want, and then, try to keep that positive mindset, and you know, be patient. Like, know that it is a process. It is so much a process. It doesn't happen like boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I definitely relate to so much of that a lot. I think you just need to start applying is a big moment. There's a lot of preparation into thinking about, okay, what is the role I want to target? Is my resume ready? And trying to have as many conversations as you can to learn about the company that you're applying to or the type of position, but just jumping in and starting to apply, that was also a big hurdle to get over. And it feels much easier after those first few applications.
oh, it does. And I mean, the thing to remember is, like, I kept thinking, well, my resume may not be quite right. Or, I'd done a lot of work on my LinkedIn profile, but I felt like I still needed to do more. Like, there was always something else that I felt like I needed to do.
Hmm.
But that can be happening during the process. It doesn't have to all be perfect before you start.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
needed someone to tell me that.
Mm. Yeah, and hopefully many people will be hearing this from you now and can take that.
Yes, just do it. Do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you said too about the patience and so important not to take not hearing anything back personally. Like just know there's lots of things going on the other side of that hiring timeline at a company. Just
You just
keep pushing them out.
No, absolutely. Well, and I can tell you, just from where I work now, we have been without like an administrative assistant since before I got there. And we just had, and so I got hired in September. We just got an administrative assistant. I mean, and that wasn't completely for lack of interviewing, but like, to find the right person, it took them a little while.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's just the way things work out sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. All right. So we've talked about where you are now, some of the things that helped you get there. Can you tell a little bit about the specifics of the hiring process for the job you landed? Like, I think you said it took a month, but I don't know if that was your whole process or this actual interview process, but like how many rounds were there? What did that look like?
So for me, it really wasn't too bad of a process once I knew that I was getting the interview. So I found the job on LinkedIn, and but I did not apply through LinkedIn. I applied through the hiring manager,
Mhm.
and heard nothing, and thought, well, whatever. I mean, it was a good 3 to 4 weeks, and I
Mhm.
just it almost had forgotten about it. Like, really just thought, okay, they don't need me. And then I think I got an email asking me if I would do a phone interview. And I we set that up. I maybe got the email. I think I got the email, and then like we did the phone interview the next week. I'm trying to remember exactly what that timeline was. So I did the phone interview on a Thursday, and the next day she was asking me for references and stuff like that, and she wanted me to come in the following week for an in-person interview. And I came in. It was supposed to be her and one other person. Matt wasn't able to be there that day. So it was just me and her again, which was actually kind of nice because it just was a lot more personal.
Mhm.
So and then I got a job offer soon after that.
Okay.
And that was, I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. I got the offer like on September 7th. And then because I'm working with schools and with students, I had to do like, background checks and stuff. So I ended up starting September 19th. I mean, it was a pretty straightforward process. And it felt right from the beginning. It's the same week that I had that interview, that phone interview, I had an in-person interview somewhere else. And it was the first interview I had had.
Mm,
And that first interview, I was like, the interview went fine, but I did not like the job
mm.
in the interview. And I kept thinking, am I going to have to take this job? I'm probably not going to get any other jobs. And that would be my advice, is like, no, don't settle,
Hmm.
because the perfect one is going to come along. And then I had the second interview and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You know,
Yeah.
so you got to trust your gut a little bit on that too.
Yeah. That's such an important reminder about the interview being a time to learn about the position as well. And
Definitely,
yeah,
definitely. Because this was a position too that sounded great. And then I got there and I was like, I don't think this is for me. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's really important advice to not just think you'll have to take something that does not feel right when you've,
You do not,
yeah.
we are not desperate. We are teachers and we can do anything.
Hmm.
Once a teacher, always a teacher. We're still teachers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I love that reminder about, or just, it's nice that you had them so close together to feel the difference of like, oh, this is not exciting to me and this feels really great.
It was pretty awesome and scary, because then I was like, oh my gosh, what if they don't want me?
Hmm.
But they
Once you
did.
were really invested in it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think you kind of already started to touch on, I was going to ask more about what made this job stand out. It sounds like you had a good interview experience and it just sounded like the job uh, duties were appealing to you. But what was it also about the employee or the company or about the work you would be doing that made you decide that this was the one?
Well, for me, I knew I wanted to have a job that made a difference. That's why I was a teacher too. I wanted to do something that I felt like was going to be important to me still. And really, I had always kind of wanted to work for a nonprofit. I love that idea. And so I was really excited about the mission of our company, emotional intelligence. With the pandemic and having been teachers through the pandemic, we know how much the kids suffered. And
Hmm.
so, and a lot of them, not being together, they don't really have those good relationship skills. They don't really have that empathy. And so, like, I know the work I'm doing is important.
Hmm.
I felt like the mission of our company is important. And my supervisor is the one who interviewed me both times. And the first interview was almost like talking to a friend. Like I she asked me what my salary range was, and I'm not kidding you. I hadn't really thought about it because it was a nonprofit. I was kind of like not sure what it was going to be, and it wasn't listed. And I
Hmm.
wasn't expecting her to ask me that in the phone. I thought I'd have to talk about it in person. So I really was like, well, I'm not sure. And I was on, but I was honest with her, and I did explain to her why. I mean, I wasn't just like, oh, I don't know, you know. And I don't know, it was just, I was able to explain it to her in a way that it felt comfortable, and she responded. And obviously, I mean, it was okay.
Hmm.
And then when I met her in person, just the same thing, like, just, I mean, I felt like she could be my friend. And that's probably not all interviews are like that, but that
Hmm.
was one of the reasons that I knew this was going to be a good fit for me, is I just felt comfortable immediately. And I liked, the culture that I felt immediately. It was just very, very warm.
Yeah, that's so important, especially knowing that will be who you're working with primarily to have that positive feeling.
Yes. Yes, she hears me every day.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, I think we've gone through kind of the where you are, how you got there, how you knew it was going to be a good fit. I'm curious just now that you've been in the job for few months already, what has been the most exciting part about the work or just about the new type of role?
It's, well, for number one, it was really exciting for me. I was nervous, trying to find a new job at my age. And so it's super exciting to know that, like, it's never too late. I've talked to some teachers at some of the schools I go out to, and they're like, oh, I wish that I could do something different. And when I talk to them, I try and encourage them and say, you can,
Mhm.
you definitely can. And you can talk to me about it if you want to. But that's been super exciting. I love that my nights and my weekends are my own, and I'm not always stressed out. I mean, I occasionally have to do a training in the evening, but I am able to adjust my time for that. I don't, that's not in addition to, right there. And
Mhm.
so that's really nice. Once I get past my 90 days, I'll be able to work one day from home, which will be
Mm.
really, really cool. I'm excited about that. Um, it's just exciting doing something new. And I'm lucky. I mean, I don't know, maybe some people want to get away completely from, the kids and the teaching, whatever, but I'm not, I'm happy that I still get to go to the schools and I do get to be around the kids sometimes, not all the time. I'm mostly with the adults, which is
Mhm.
where I wanted to be. But
Mhm.
it's fun to still be able to go back and do some of that. And I'm supporting educators, so I'm really happy doing that.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you found a position that's a really great fit for you. I'm really excited for you. So congratulations on being in this new role and having it go well so far. And I think
Thank
that
you.
yeah, this has been a really great conversation, kind of hearing about your positive mindset throughout. Just like when we interacted on LinkedIn before, I can just feel the warmth coming my way from you. So thank you
Oh,
so
you're
much.
so kind, Nicole. Well, likewise, likewise. I'm a big fan of yours.
Thank you. Yeah, well, that will do it for this conversation. Thank you again for your time, and I hope to talk to you soon.
Absolutely. It's been my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
All right, take care.